Alors, bonsoir tout le monde pour ceux-là qui m'ont pas
Good
entendu.
evening. If you didn't hear me the first time, so welcome to this regular public meeting of Dieppe City Council, September 9th. So let's begin. Let's begin with the land acknowledgement. The City of Dieppe recognizes that the land on which it operates is part of the unceded traditional ancestral lands of the Mi'kmaq. And, dear colleagues, may we have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Right, so once again, good evening to everyone. There are no special announcements tonight, so I will call the meeting to order. We have quorum. It's not indicated, but there are 3 councillors who are outside and participating in this meeting by video conference. So we have the full team for the meeting. Conflict of interest. Does anybody have any conflicts? Nothing has been brought to my attention. All right, let's move on with the adoption of the agenda. Moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Jeannet. On the question. Seeing no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The resolution carries as presented. Item 8. We've already done that. So 8.1, inquiries by council members, Kodiak Regional RCMP. And we have with us this evening, I'm just looking for his button. Oh, the names haven't changed on the buttons. So Mr. Benoit Jolette, the superintendent, is here with us tonight. Hello, Your Worship, councillors and residents, and the many people in the room. So thank you for having us here every 2 weeks. So I have a report to present to you. So you heard that our colleague Chantal Farah has had a new job with the Southeast District, and she's here in Moncton, but her tasks will bring her outside the Kodiak region. So there's a competition to replace her, but I would like to present Sylvette Hébert, who is with me today. She is going to be the one who takes over as an interim inspector for the Kodiak Special Services. And she or her will be here at your meetings. The second part is I want to talk is about the community policing unit. So on September 3, most students went back to school either gradually or altogether. So we will have officers present around the school zones in the city during the school year. And I would like to remind automobilists and parents and others to adopt safe driving practices and to be careful when you're driving. Now, there are a number of specific files. So we're going to talk about the crime reduction unit first. On August 14th, we received a break-and-enter complaint. The suspect had broken into a storage unit of her apartment on Acadie Avenue in Dieppe. They had stole her high-value electric bicycle, which was worth over $6,000. So the victim called us and our investigation is underway. She called us to say that she had found her bike on sale on social media. So her bike was successfully identified through identification on her bike. And that's something, that we, to identify items like this, we were able to confirm that this was in fact her bicycle, thanks to that identification. So the crime reduction unit and another unit conducted an investigation, and we were able to identify with certainty 2 of the suspects who live in our region. And then, so we located those 2 suspects, and they found them in possession of the stolen bike. A man and a woman from Moncton were arrested and charged, and the bike was returned to the owner. On August 15th, the crime reduction unit saw a delinquent in Moncton and arrested him for a number of infractions, or offenses rather. And as I said to the council before, regardless of what happens in the 3 communities when we're talking about narcotics, this affects everyone, and our young people and less young people. So in this file, in this specific case, the individual was arrested for offenses under the criminal code regarding narcotics. And these were seized from the vehicle. We found a large amount of fentanyl, metafentanyl, and other substances. And all the drugs that we confiscated had a street value of about $50,000. There were also drug paraphernalia. The investigation is underway, but the suspect is in custody. On September 9th, the crime reduction unit found a woman who was was being looked for near the Champlain Mall. So we found, again, the unit found a large number of substances, illegal pills and firearms. So there were new charges laid against this individual for possession of drugs, for trafficking, and the woman in question was placed in custody. And then our general investigation section, which works on more complex cases, which require innovative techniques. On August 16th, a patrol in Kodiak received a call regarding a possible assault with a knife. And after the first call, they went to the scene. The suspect had fled the scene with a suspect. The suspect was brought to the hospital with serious injuries, but their life was not in danger, and they recovered. The investigation was then led by our general investigation section, and thanks to the hard work, we were able to identify the suspect rather, and in late August, following information that we received, we were able to locate the individual and go into the residence where that person was hiding, and that person was arrested. So that was thanks to the work of all the teams. So the main suspect was located and is in custody. And he's also charged with another case involving violence that is not related to this case. On August 28th, the Child Exploitation Unit received information regarding an offender who had recently distributed youth pornography online, and he was located in our area. Our provincial team and our general investigation team and other members of the Kodiak detachment devoted intense efforts to finding this person, given the urgent circumstances. So our members went immediately, attended the residence of the suspect, and they were able to put one person in custody. Social Development was contacted, and we issued a search warrant the next day, which allowed us to gather important evidence, and then that investigation is ongoing. Now, the same type of file and the same day, on August 28th, the same team was here to conduct another search on a residence in the area where we had received information that this individual was sharing youth pornography. So in this case, the man was arrested at his residence and various devices were confiscated. And as I said, these files are very complex and they require specific skills, and they are also very painful and traumatizing, not only for the victims and the families and the close people, but also for the officers who conduct the investigations. So I'm very proud of our team and our partners as well in those two particular files in particular. And then our patrol section, I just wanted to talk about this. This happened on there's something that happened on September 3rd. A member of a patrol was trying to do a traffic stop with an individual whose license had expired. And while the officer was talking to the driver to try to get more information, the suspect put his vehicle in reverse and started hitting the police car. So that the vehicle was blocked, but the driver and the passenger tried to flee. And while they were fleeing, they even tried to steal the police car. But a passerby helped the officer, who was alone at the time. So the officer was able to arrest the individual. Other officers came and they were able to take over from our very courageous citizen who had offered to help out. So after conducting a search, they found an important or a substantial number of illegal cigarettes, and there was a sawed-off shotgun as well. I would like to thank the member of the public who came to help our officer. Thankfully, nobody was injured, and of course, we don't want public to intervene in these types of cases. And then I would like to thank the City of Dieppe and our partners, our organizers, and the volunteers for the excellent results that we obtained during the YQM Music Festival here in Dieppe. We had a command unit specifically dedicated to the event, and this work had begun early in 2024. And thanks to that unit, there were no major incidents that occurred or that were reported. And the spectators and the residents were able to enjoy relative calm. Almost 64,000 people attended the event over the 3-day event. So again, thank you to our partners for their dedication and their hard work. Thank you for making this activity a success. And I would also like to point out one specific employer, Mr. Sean Daigle, who's here this evening. So he did an excellent job. He provided us with IT assistance so that we could connect, and we were able to connect everything happening on the site to our command truck. So we even tried to recruit him so thank you, Your Worship. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any questions from councillors? Nothing. Nobody? Councillor Godbout? Yes, a question for the worship. Can we issue a fine for trying to recruit our IT director? If so, I would encourage us to maybe we should come up with a new regulation. No, I think thanks for the comment, but I think we'll we're happy to have Sean. He does a great job, and this is not the first time that he's supported the RCMP in a. I remember one example in particular. It was in front of the City Hall because there was an accident. The person who had caused the accident was explaining what had happened, why it had happened, and when Shan shared the video, it was a completely different version. So he does a good job. All right, so thank you again. Are there any other questions from councillors? No? Is that everything? All right. That's nothing from outside of from non people who aren't on council. Okay. All right. Item 8.2, public hearing. This is regarding the amendments to the municipal development plan, bylaw Z9 2017-11, and the zoning bylaw Z10 2021-12. And it's regarding the project at 253 Acadie Avenue. So this will be a presentation by Nassim, our staff member, Nassim Sid Othman. So welcome. Hello, Your Worship, members of the public. So, Your Worship, this public hearing is held regarding the project on 253 Acadie. So there was a first presentation on June 24th. And so given that this plan involves amending the municipal development plan and the zoning bylaw, we are making the second presentation. So during this presentation, we will be issuing a reminder of the timetable. We'll be providing a bit of context to the project and the proposed, and then we'll look at the variants being asked or requested and the proposed amendments. Now, in terms of the timetable, so the amendment process began on May 27th when the file was opened. After that, and as I mentioned, there was a public presentation on June 24th. The public hearing is being held today. It will go before the PAC committee as well on September 18th. And then on October 15th, council will be asked to make a decision. So in terms of consultation with regard to this zoning request, and pursuant to the regulations and legislation, a project information sheet was prepared and circulated either by mail or directly to the property. So in a 100-meter radius of the project, and there was also information published on the website. So as you can see here, this is a summary of the process. There are the important dates are presented, and the point of the the consultation is to gather feedback from citizens. So we received no comments in this case. Now, just a reminder, this is a project that is located at 260 Normandy Street, PID number 0067316. It's in an RU, as a lot zoned RU, or urban residential. This is a project that involves 4 separate lots, 3 of which are zoned CC and 1 that's zoned RU. So what's being asked here is to amalgamate the 4 lots to be able to accommodate the project. Now, in terms of the built environment, so CC is the predominant zoning. It's a mixed use area of dense residential dwellings. So RU zoning does not permit the development of multifamily dwellings with more than 4 units per building. And this site is also at the limit of the densification zone. And then on the other side is another zone. So this project is going to be situated at the corner building. It's going to be on the corner of Acadie and Normandie. And the zone, the area that's going to be rezoned will mainly serve for parking and as an entrance. It will allow a setback of 13.7 meters from the adjacent property on the east side. In terms of volume, this is a 5-story building with 65 housing units. There will be commercial spaces on the Acadie side. In terms of the variance now, the project contravenes paragraph 6.23I of zoning bylaw Z10, which states that the width of the street facade of the main building must measure at least 75% of the lot frontage on all public streets. So we're at a roughly 77 meters, which is slightly above what's allowed. In terms of the amendments, what we're proposing is amending the land use map of municipal development bylaw to convert the property from residential to downtown use, and then the zoning map of zoning bylaw Z10 would also need to be amended to rezone the lot from RU to CC. So if there are any questions, I can take them now. Any questions from councillors? Seeing none. No questions? All right. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you to you. That brings us to item 9, questions from members of the public. If anyone here has questions on an item that's not on the agenda. Inaudible.
My name's Keith Carter, and Mr. Carter, how are you? Yes. Well, I don't know right now. I came to see the mayor and the council to ask some questions, but I don't know if I'm in the right spot because I don't want to interrupt your meeting with other things.
Well, let's get going and see where we go.
Okay. What I have is, do you fellas have rules in what you're to run the city on?
How many of them do you want to talk about?
Well, that's what I was asking. There is only a few.
Okay, go for it.
I own Amiro Gardens, a subdivision in Dieppe here, and they tell me that we can't expand anymore. And they're looking for buildings in the city, but they said we can't build anymore. And every time I ask questions, you just get the same answer. You just can't do it. Nobody knows, and that's why I came here. And as far as the lots to build on in Dieppe, from what I can gather, they're looking for them all the time, and they won't let me do anymore, and they okayed the plan for 250 lots back in the 90s. And now they said I had to have 2 entrances to the subdivision. So I went and put the second entrance in. As soon as I got the second entrance in, they told me that I couldn't build anymore.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that this is in the region where up Amedo Street, where
Okay.
the service boundaries are, as we speak, not available for services. So this is part of our Dieppe Boulevard project, which has started and is planned to have full service in that territory in the next 2 or 3 years, depending on the completion of the project on Dieppe Boulevard. So we have a water tower that is included in that project. So this will give the capacity to service those lots at that time. So before we had a confirmation about the project, we couldn't confirm anything about the service boundaries of our municipalities, if I'm not mistaken. Angèle or Rémi? Or Alexandre?
Alexandre?
Sorry. That's my recognition of this situation. Peut-être activer le micro aussi de Alexandre. Le jaune.
Oh, il a changé de place, c'est pour ça. OK.
Non, juste le jaune à côté. Oui. Oh.
All right, merci, Monsieur le Maire. To answer Mr. Carter's question, and to add on what the city manager has mentioned, the city will be undertaking kind of a larger planning exercise in that specific area to determine zoning, to determine the capacity of the area to accommodate future growth, to look at, what are the environmental and ecological elements that are associated with that specific area. So this exercise will be undertaken in the fall and in the winter of 2025. So in the fall of 2024 and in the winter of 2025.
Well, they got the money in 92 to do Dieppe Boulevard, and they spent it elsewhere, but they had enough money from the feds to do it. And then they never did it, but we've had 30 years and they haven't got through in 30 years.
Well,
Now, how long does it wait?
I don't know where you got your information from, but I can tell you that the money for Boulevard Dieppe has only been announced in January of this year. So we have been waiting like you have been waiting. I wish we had the money to spend there. But now that we have that money, as you've heard, there's a plan in place to get water to, I know where your properties are. We've had that, you and I have had some of that discussion before.
Yes.
And, you have an answer. It may not be the answer you want for now, but that's the project is somewhere around 2 years, plus or minus. I would say plus more than minus, not for you to raise your expectations too high.
Well,
Because we have to build and install a tower in that area to help with the pressure of the water, so that when you want to build, the people that will buy the homes will have enough water pressure for their needs. So that's where we're at. We can't change that.
So there's not enough water out there now?
Not now, not the pressure. There's water, but there's not enough pressure.
Oh, yes.
I mean, you know why? The same as we have a tower in the park, right?
Yeah.
Which is only up, and that's been there for now probably 20 years or more. But water will follow where there's power.
Power? No, it's follows
Well,
pipes.
Gets its power from
Elevations.
exactly from this.
I understand that.
I know you understand that.
I put them in.
I know, and I know you're anxious to build, and we're anxious to see you building,
You can't be that anxious.
but
because you're not.
we can't, there's a lot of work to be done before we get there. So as you've heard, it's somewhere between 2 to 3 years. So,
When I first started this in '86, they were talking that they were going to do it way back then.
They started at the other end. There was more pressure. There was more people pressure for this end before going to the other end, because there was so much more people moving to this section of the city versus the other end of the city. So it's a matter of priorities. It's. I wish I could give you a better answer, but that's what it's going to be.
But the project has started.
The project has started, so I know engineering has been added since we got the confirmation from the feds and supported by the province to go ahead with that tower, which will help us. There's a lot of people waiting on that, as you are, for many years. Some people passed away. Some people, I mean, it's more than 25 years since
It's been 30 years since they announced
we did
that
the
they were gonna do it.
the first opening of the Dieppe Boulevard, and it's starting to move fast now. And I know there's a lot of pressure for housing. So
Thank you.
sorry. Quelqu'un d'autre?
Anybody else? Now, if it's on the issue, I'm to talk to you about 11.3.1. Well, that's going to be addressed by council. And when can I ask my questions on that item? You cannot speak on something that is not on the agenda. Well, I don't want to vote. I just want to speak. No, you don't have the right to speak on an item that's already on the agenda, because the item has already been dealt with. Tonight, council must make a decision. And where does this come from, that citizens don't have the right to talk to a point on the agenda? It's not a point. It's not because it's a point on the agenda. It's a point on the agenda on which council must speak up. That's what it is. So I don't have the right to ask any questions on an item that is on the agenda. I'd like to see the rule that states that. Well, it's what justifies that is the procedure, what we use, the parliamentary procedure that we use and have always used here in the city. And the point we're here today, that's where what. But I have a question on the resolution. There was a resolution, a motion that's published on the agenda, and I have questions on this resolution. When can I ask my question? Citizens don't have the right to ask any questions on the resolution. Councillors have the right to ask questions, but the citizens don't have the right to ask questions on a resolution. Where does that come from? Whose decision is that? Was this invented this evening? Is this something new, or is that a real law? Well, I will consult my clerk here, but it's not in our practice. I'm just asking for the right to speak on a resolution that's going to be discussed this evening. Can you explain to me why I don't have the right to ask any questions on something that's going to be discussed a little later? That hasn't been voted on yet. It hasn't been discussed yet. There was an public hearing, and now it's on the agenda at a council meeting. And I'd like to know why I don't have the right to speak. You had your right to speak throughout the whole process. Yeah, but these are new points. I'm not going to repeat anything. I'm not going to repeat myself. These are new points. I'm not going to raise anything that's already been discussed. I just want to talk about the new things. The last time we talked was June 24th. Things have happened since then. All sorts of things have happened since then. I'd like to talk about them. And I don't understand when and how I'm going to be able to discuss it if you don't give me the right to speak. I will give you the right to speak, but I don't want to end up listening to 60 people, one after another, to repeat 60 things, the same things that we already heard the last time. So I will allow you to ask your questions to see where we go with this. Well, my first question, is if the citizens don't have the right to speak, the evening if they don't have the right to speak at council meetings, well, when do they have the right to speak? I don't want an answer, but I would just like to know where that comes from. I'd like to hear where that comes from and to see where it's written that citizens don't have the right to ask questions on resolutions or on an item that's on the agenda. Well, can I ask another question that wasn't in my text? When there are problems with the procedure, and when I think there are problems with the procedure, who do I talk to about it? Who is the superior body here that can answer my questions? Because I've come here a couple of times, and I ask my questions, and you look at me like I'm from another planet because you don't have the answers. So who's the boss? Who do you report to? To the citizens? No. I mean, I'm saying when there are problems with the procedure. Well, that's why I gave you the right to speak this evening. Yeah, but I've asked you questions several times now, and nobody answers me. If you don't have an answer, I mean, the municipalities here in New Brunswick, is there an umbrella organization? Does somebody monitor that? I mean, when there's procedures or problems with the procedures like this, who do I address? Who do I talk to tomorrow morning to see why I don't have the right to speak? Who do I talk to? The Minister of Local Government, the Minister of Local Government. Yeah, he exists. So I'm going to ask the City Hall, and I'm going to ask who's the Minister of Local Government? What's his name? I don't know. They've changed him several times. Sorry. Well, just a second. We'll find it for you. We'll find it. Just a second. We'll Well, okay, let's, I don't know. I don't know where I'll start, but I'm sorry, what? Our CAO is saying, Your Worship, the procedure normally is, you talked about June 24th. So according to the the Community Act, citizens have the right to come to council, to get information, to ask questions, like you did on June 24th, and and council has staff here as well to answer questions. This evening, it's council's turn to receive the recommendation from staff following the recommendation that was received from the PAC. And this evening, it's not a question of debating it, but it's up to council to make its decision. This is not something that we are inventing here. This is a procedure that was developed and implemented by the Department of Local Governance, and it's the Community Planning Act, and it's the same procedure that we've been using for 25 years, and we're still following it. There is a public hearing, and then after that, when it comes back to council, it's for council to make a decision. Okay, well, certain things have happened since June 24th. Do you agree to hear me on this, or? Go ahead, and we'll see. And we'll see where we go with it. Go ahead. I'm here on 11.3.1, and I'll be very brief. I have 3 points. Things that happened since our last meeting on June 24th. On August 21st, there was a meeting of the PAC, the Planning Advisory Committee, and I don't know if this is normal, but the minutes of that meeting are not available to the public yet. I know there's always a certain delay, but I wasn't able to obtain it before this evening. And we have no idea what information was given to councillors. And we were at that meeting, and we want to make sure that councillors are aware of what happened during that meeting and during the presentation of the project from the chief planner, like we heard on June 24th. And then we had a detailed, extremely detailed review of the whole municipal plan of Dieppe, which lasted 1 hour. So during 60 minutes of time, people explained why this project did fit into the municipal development plan, and then they presented the 5 exceptions, because that's new. There are only 4 requested by the developer at first, but then now there are 5, and then they presented the 13 recommendations of staff, not 1, not 2, but 13 recommendations by staff. And then the committee members had the right to speak. They seemed to be a little confused after this presentation, and it was a red flag for them. And that's the word they used. They said, why is there a need to explain all of this? I mean, there were 5 exceptions, 5 non-conforming uses. This is something that they'd never seen before, and they have experience. This wasn't their first meeting, but they were wondering if there is a limit to the number of variances a developer can ask for when they're trying to get a project to fit into a certain area. So there's 5 variances being requested, 13 recommendations, that's 18 modifications. Would you accept that I propose 18 modifications to a single family dwelling, for example? I don't think so. At that meeting as well, they tried to convince us that this was in harmony with the densification plan. And here I have a page from the Dieppe mag that you published, and here you can see that 452 is not a part of the densification zone that you're proposing. It's not in one of the red zones, it's here. And one of the members of the PAC said, I'm not sure that the municipal rules apply to this property because it's specific, it's unique, it's different. And there was no response to the question, but I think perhaps that this property should be approached differently, because the people at the PAC are people that you trust. You're asking for their views on variances, on zoning changes, the way streets are named in Dieppe. Usually their opinion is worth something. Then this evening, we have a resolution, and at the end of the meeting, the members of the PAC voted against the project. They did not recommend the project. So I don't know what information they gave you, but it was very clear the majority voted against it. And this evening, the resolution states that that the city reject the recommendation of the PAC. So you trust the people, but you don't want their recommendation. So the citizens don't want it. This PAC doesn't recommend it, but the city recommends to reject the recommendation of the PAC. And then there are 13 different terms in which the 5 variances are hidden. Why are the 5 variances not listed clearly? Even 3 of these variances on number 5, on item number 5. So it's hide and seek here. It's you have to find these different variances in the middle of these different terms and conditions. And the height of a building is not a variance. It's in the municipal bylaws. It's not like putting a commemorative plaque here. It's different, and I don't understand. I'd like you to explain to me why it's done this way. My second point is on the traffic study. When we met last time, we hadn't received it yet, and I mentioned it to the PAC, and I don't know if you are aware, but this traffic study was done during the University of Moncton's study week. Is that coincidental? I don't know. But then at the same time, they were repaving Amiro Street just up from the project. So everybody was taking other detours because there was construction, and it was done on a Friday, which usually on a Friday there's less traffic anyhow. So this traffic study was done on a Friday of a study week, and when there was construction just a little higher up, so nobody was there. And my last point, probably the most important, is since June 24th, several people amongst you have told us that your hands are tied, that the developer is not at fault, that the developer has invested a lot of money, that the developer has rights, and that they could sue you if you don't go ahead. I'd like to know what right you're talking about if the stages are followed correctly. It's conditional use that's to be approved by council. It's clear. What does that mean, all of that? Why come here to go to public hearings, ask us to write letters, ask to go to the PAC meeting for a long meeting, if in any case the decision is made in advance that you're going to agree to the project because you could be taken to court otherwise? have you committed that to yourself to the developer? Are all of the decisions made in Dieppe in the light of the possible lawsuits? And there was a developer and are we going to change and defigure our whole city because a developer from Nova Scotia had bought a lot here, a property, and our citizens have to pay for it forevermore?
Dernier petit point, puis c'est un autre
My
élément.
last point,
Je veux juste vous rappeler, les élus, que vous êtes venus chez nous cogner à
I'd just like to remind
nous déranger pendant notre souper, nous dire de vous faire confiance.
elected officials that
Là, on a des
you-
citoyens
we have citizens here. People came knocking on our doors to tell us to trust what you do. But we have citizens here who are putting our trust in you this evening. You know what we want.
non seulement vous le savez, vous nous avez
Not
fait
only
un sondage, c'est un élément nouveau,
do
puis
you
on voit pas, c'est pas sur le
know
web,
what we
vous avez fait un
want, but
sondage, vous
you
avez
did
mis
a
sur
survey,
des petits
or
post-it, pourquoi
we
qu'on est venu à Dieppe.
we had to write on a little post-it, why we came to Dieppe, what are our dreams for Dieppe, what are the challenges for Dieppe. The results of the survey are online, but what comes up most often is just that, the fact that French, that's a whole other question, but it's our proximity to nature, the green spaces. And so what are the priorities for, well, to protect trees, protect the environment, and that's what we want. We don't want this project and PAC doesn't recommend it. You're here to represent us. So I just have trouble understanding what's going on. The city, the development is being done in any which way. It seems like the Wild West here. And we want green spaces. We want French and Acadian identity, but I mean, that comes back a lot too. But I want to put my trust in you. We're here to support all citizens of Dieppe. Please vote this evening for the reasons for which you are here on council. Thank you, and thank you, Your Worship.
Merci.
Thank you. We will now continue on with the agenda.
Non, je m'excuse. Non.
Si c'est autre que-
C'est quelque chose d'autre.
Oh, do you have a question on something other than an item on the agenda?
Sur la dernière page, on nous dit que le zonage va changer de I à I avec un astérix. Je veux savoir qu'est-ce que ça veut dire. Le I avec un astérix.
On the last page, it says that the zoning is going to change from I to I asterisk. I just want to know what it is. The amendment, the modification to the zoning plan, based on the procedure in the zoning bylaw, it's a conditional use under section 59 under approval by council. So it's a very specific part that the council has to deal with. If I understand section 59, council can impose different conditions. It's not a zoning change. It's not going from R1 to institutional. The zoning remains the same. So it remains institutional zone. And council can authorize the use and can also add specific conditions to the use, which means that the institutional zone will remain institutional, but it means that the mayor and councillors can vote to say that a building with lots and lots of dwelling units will fit in an institutional zone. No. The project as presented during the process was the project that the councillors are going to address, and they will also have the opportunity, if they decide to authorize the use, they can add specific conditions as well. So we always deal residential use within the institutional zone as provided by the zoning bylaw. So if the zoning doesn't change, why do we have to do that? Because at the PAC, they say that the zoning is not, the zone is not going to change. Well, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but if council decides to authorize the use, the conditions they will issue will become a legal document. So the developer has to respect these conditions. It becomes a legal document. And this will be reflected through the adoption of a municipal bylaw. So it's a special law. Well, it's specific conditions. It's the members of council can impose these conditions. It's not staff, it's not the members of the PAC. It is the members of council that is the only that are the only ones to impose these conditions. If they want to move ahead with this project, first of all, they'll have to adopt a resolution to that effect. And secondly, to proceed to the reading of the bylaws a little further along on the agenda. Well, what happens though then? Well, there is a resolution that's going to be discussed and debated by council with conditions. So if council decides that it wants to move forward with this resolution as presented, then there will be the conditions that are accompanying it. So what's in the resolution a little higher, a little earlier? So so they're going to discuss these resolutions, but then if they change the zone to a 1 with a little star, these are the resolutions that are going to be there. Yes, everything's going to be done at the same time. The resolution is one critical step. The bylaw is one other critical point, but it all has to be registered at the same time. So if they refuse the resolution, then you don't get that far. Exactly. Then it's no longer applicable. So these are the points that will have to be debated by council. I just find it wrong that citizens don't have more opportunity to speak out. Thank you. Thank you. To inform everybody on the next steps. Well, we're now at the adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of August 12th. If there are no further questions. No. Okay, so that brings us to item 10.1, regular council meeting minutes. So the meeting held on August 12th. It's been moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Janin on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed? So the minutes of the meeting held on August 12th are carried. Which brings us to motions, memorandums, and nominations. Item 11.1, finance. Yes, for our first item this evening is, every now and then we have to review certain policies. And this evening we're proposing to review policy EXPD 1 2024, financial incentives for real estate densification of the downtown core. Three key elements of this review. Well, in zone A and B, we did allow intensification incentive for anything 3 stories or more. But as you know, the third story is included in development. So we think that we're at the level where we should just give incentives now for densification projects of 4 stories and more. That's one of the first proposals or first major change we are proposing. And the second, and we're referring here to the affordable housing incentive. If developers want to integrate affordable housing, where there's a link made to that policy. And also there's a couple of clarifications of the text, that certain areas of the text can be a little confusing. So those are the key elements of this review. It's fairly minimal. I think it's the third time we've reviewed this policy since its existence, and this is for your consideration. If you have any questions, please feel free. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Jeannin. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council repeal policy EXPD 1 2022 entitled Financial Incentives for Real Estate Densification of the Downtown Core and adopt the new policy EXPD-1 2024 entitled Financial Incentives for Real Estate Densification of the Downtown Core. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Jeannin, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Opposed? No. It's carried as presented. 11.2. Yes, now it's a tender award for the installation of a furnace here at City Hall. The furnace is coming to the end of its useful life, so certain experts were involved in the inspection and review, and they recommend to the option of 3 boilers that would give us certain advantages, but also allow us to get a grant from NB Power for $80,000 and would allow us to save about $20,000 annually. So we would need a directive that will award a contract to PMC Energy Limited for a total cost of $319,790 plus HST, and this following a tender, an RFP for which we received 2 bids, and that's the recommendation of staff. Who would like to read the recommendation? Thank you, Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council award the contract for the installation of a new furnace at City Hall to PMC Energy Limited at the cost of $319,790 plus HST, and authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-80-12-3310, General Operating Budget Building Renovation Program. And I so move it. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne on the question. If not, all those in favor will signify by saying aye. Contrary? Nay? It's carried as presented. Now, 11.2.2. Here you have a recommendation for Dexter Construction Limited at the cost of $147,000 to remove the culvert that at Airview. This trail or the culvert is now creates a certain risk. So we have a WAWA permit that allows us to do work on waterways and to avoid to prevent the circulation of marine and life like fish. We recommend to do this project as quickly as possible, and the Dexter Construction we recommend that we award the contract to Dexter, and that the access to the Boys and Girls Clubs will be done at the same time. So that'll give people an alternative to have access to it. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Lantaigne. The Council award the contract of the project entitled Airview Culvert to the lowest bidder, Dexter Construction Limited, at the cost of $147,000 plus HST, pursuant to the proposal dated August 23rd, 2024, and authorize that this expenditure be defrayed from account number 1-2-35-63-2635, general operating budget, drainage, ditch, and culvert, DW, that council authorize a budget transfer in the amount of $110,000 from account number 7-4-20-12-2018-8910 general operating fund to account number 1-2-35-63-2635 general operating budget, drainage, ditch, and culvert, PW. And I so move. Thank you. It's been moved by Councillor Lantaigne, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as adopted. As
11.3.1 recommendation
11.3.1 PAC recommendation, conditional use, PID 70602-610, 452 Amiro Street. 452 Amiro, sorry. All right. Who would like to read, or? Well, just to give you a bit of context. So the options tonight, so in last May, an application was submitted by Josh with representing to build a multifamily dwelling at 452 Amiro Street. So the property in question is situated in an institutional zone, which allows council to authorize a multifamily dwelling pursuant to Section 59 of the Community Planning Act. It also allows, the Act also allows council to impose conditions. So following that request, a public hearing was held last June. The project was presented and residents had an opportunity to express their views. During the prior to that meeting, various departments proceeded or conducted analyses. And staff formulated recommendation to accept the project, but with amendments. So the PAC was asked to accept or reject the recommendation by staff to authorize the use. Now, during the PAC meeting in August, the PAC decided to recommend not to authorize the requested use. So this evening, staff is recommending that councillors reject the PAC's recommendation. As mentioned earlier, staff considers that the proposal meets the intentions of the municipal bylaw. Councillors have had an opportunity to review the comments, and they also have the recommendation of staff and PAC. We believe that council now has all the information it needs to proceed with the decision. To understand the rest of the process now, we're presenting various scenarios. So first of all, if the council rejects the recommendation of PAC, council has the authority to accept staff recommendation as presented, and then we would proceed with second reading. The second scenario, council could choose to impose conditions or to modify staff's recommendation, and then we would proceed with second reading. And then the third scenario, if council accepts the recommendation by PAC, this file will be considered over and the project as proposed will not go forward. So it's up to the councillors now to make this decision. So, Your Worship, this I will leave this up to you now for your consideration. All right, who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Brideau, please. Thank you, Your Worship. All right, be patient because this is quite a lengthy resolution. so that council reject the recommendation made by the Planning Advisory Committee on August 21st, 2024. So again, so that council reject the recommendation made by the PAC on August 21st, 2024 regarding an application to amend the zoning map of zoning bylaw Z10, 2021 and authorize the development of a multiple unit dwelling within the institutional zone. That council further impose that this application be subject to Section 59 of the Community Planning Act, notwithstanding the recommendation made by the Planning Advisory Committee on August 21st, 2024, pursuant to the following terms and conditions. That the 5-story building have a maximum building height of 16.85 meters, that the 2 one-way driveway aisles be 6 meters wide, that 2 rows of trees be planted at 4.5 meter intervals along the berm to the north of the parking lot, with one of the rows extending to the end of the parking lot, that the required buffer zone extend 10 meters wide along the northern property line or up to the proposed berm, where applicable. A fence, hedge, or wall, as required, may be located within the 10-meter buffer zone. That the site development, including the positioning of the amenity area and the berm, the building street line and the location of its driveway, but excluding the exact positioning of the trees to be planted, which must comply with conditions 3 and 4 above, be carried out in compliance with the site plan entitled Site Plan dated August 2nd, 2024. That the retaining wall located on the western property line be removed. That a marking clearly identifying the direction of traffic of the driveway aisles, including do not enter signs for the driveway aisle exiting the site, be installed. That a plaque be installed on the site near Amiro Street to describe the property's heritage history. That existing trees identified as trees of interest to remain and existing standard tree to remain, and treed areas identified as existing trees to be conserved and tree area to be preserved on the site plan entitled Schematic Site Plan dated May 31st, 2024, be preserved as practically as possible. Any changes to the above-mentioned tree preservation shall be made with the authorization of the Environmental Management Department. This condition will expire when the development project, including landscaping, is entirely completed. That deciduous trees be planted no further than 4.5 meters apart along the southern property line. That a low masonry wall at least 1 meter high be erected in the south side yard. No part of the low wall shall be erected in the required front yard. That no accessory building or structure requiring a development shall be erected on the property between the main building and Amiro Street, and that a landscaping plan illustrating the work required as per conditions 3, 4, and 10 be provided prior to the issuance of a development permit. And that council proceed with the first and second readings of bylaw Z10, 2021-13. I so move, Your Worship. All right, moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Jeannet. On the question. On the question, Councillor Lanting, please. Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to share my thoughts on this project. And before that, I would like to make a comment. You know, something that's bothering me is, you know, that we we don't want to do things too quickly. There's you know, people are accusing city council and staff of trying to participate there to accelerate things. But I just want to remind people that our staff is very competent. They're experts in their fields, and you know, they study files. They raise concerns based on the best of their knowledge and on their expertise. So one thing that we have to realize is Dieppe is no longer the city that it was before, and we've heard that. You know, I moved here 25 years ago. The population was 13,000. Now we're at about 35,000. And based on forecasts, we were supposed to be 30,000 people. There were supposed to be 30,000 of us in 2030. So of course, Dieppe has changed. It's no longer what it is. And that means that we have to cut trees. It means that we have to build apartment blocks. That's the reality. We're experiencing extreme growth, and we have to adjust to that. So I just want to repeat this and to tell you that we hear you, we're listening to you. Well, please let me finish. Please let me finish. You know, respectfully, you know, we hear you, we listen to you, and based on the best of our knowledge, and you know, we're trying to do the best that we can for the entire municipality. Now, I would like to share my thoughts very quickly on this resolution. I would like to, first of all, recognize the participation of the developer. He took the time and he took the energy necessary to modify his initial project that was presented about 18 months ago. The developer voluntarily returned to the drawing table to come back with a proposal that better meets the needs of council, the city, and residents. And we don't often see that. Now, unfortunately, despite those efforts, you know, it would appear that, I mean, tonight, you know, from what we've heard over the last years, that it didn't change anything. So I'm in Ward 3, or after talking with people in Ward 3 and reading the 60-page report and discussing with other people, you know, I just want to share my thoughts and my reasons for my decisions. So first of all, as you know, the zoning here for this project is institutional zoning. This project does not fall under the 26 types of projects that are permitted in this zoning. But the law clearly indicates that this zone can be used for multifamily dwellings on the condition that council approves that use. The recommendation from the PAC committee is very clear, and it's almost unanimous. 4 against 1 voted against the project. There's a cemetery adjacent to this property. So 8 major trees would have to be cut down, and for some people, or in some cases, 100-year-old trees. So finally, this project is not a bad project per se, not at all, but it's a project that's proposed at the wrong location for this project. Now, unfortunately, there are too many constraints, so I will be opposing this project. I'll be voting against it. Your Worship, I just want to make one clarification. So the institutional zone, according to staff, does allow residential projects, but the council has a right to kind of frame that project or to. So I just wanted to make sure, because what you said was not exactly what I said, but so just to repeat, the institutional zone allows residential projects, and it allows council to kind of govern or to regulate those projects.
Merci.
Thank you.
Si vous avez des grands discours à faire,
All right, if you have
avertissez-moi avant.
speeches to make, please warn me in advance. I was going to put the question to you. I was going to ask if people had other questions before we go to the vote, but no? All right, let's continue then we'll proceed to the vote. Well, we'll start with Councillor Thibodeau. If there are no further questions. If there are no further comments, we'll proceed to the vote. Do you have a question, or go ahead? Well, I think it's important, you know, in the material, you know, in the material that we were given, we were asked to kind of explain our reasoning. So did I understand that clearly? Okay. I don't, the order doesn't matter to me, but all right, are you going to go? All right, go ahead. All right. So my considerations and my reasoning is this. And it's based on two things. First of all, the municipal plan. I agree with the PAC that the municipal plan, the current version, is not well adapted to this type of project at 452 Amiro. It's a bit of a unique situation. I also agree with the analysis presented by staff to council. So, which says that even if this plan doesn't fit with the municipal plan, you know, some of the conditions can appear contradictory, but the municipal plan must be taken into account. And in this context, you know, we're presented with information that could make this project fit with the municipal plan. So as a councillor, I think that the municipal plan, the principles have to be factored in as well. The demographic changes and the population changes that are experiencing are significant. And so I make the following points. The greater importance to natural resources, the desire to have buffers between the various areas and to have green space in between areas, future development of the Petit Kodiak River, the additional responsibility given to municipalities as part of municipal reform. So that brings me to ask the following question. So is what is being proposed the proper use of this lot? I think one could argue that the project being proposed is not is an underuse of this property. So in this context, just because I feel that just because a project is possible doesn't mean that we have to proceed with it. So, and my second point is the application of the bylaw. So this is a specific project. In my view, council is allowed to authorize such a project in that site. So it could, with conditions, so it could, we could, we could have, for example, to transform a rectory into a condo, for example. But in the proposed project, we're reconfiguring the lot completely, and we're treating it as we're not preserving anything. So, but the developer did make an effort to save some of the trees. So, in my view, this project has to be persuasive. We have to be convinced of that the collective well-being will be well served by this project. So are there persuasive arguments to this project? And are there sufficient reasons to authorize the recommend? So I have 5 comments. So the land is not targeted by the city for densification. Now, you know, there was the Boulevard Dieppe project is going to be change things. So there was a Dieppe Mag indicated where those densification zones would be. So 2, the project does not meet an urgent need in terms of affordable housing. You know, if the project you know, had talked about affordable housing, that would have influenced my decision. This project risks to be incompatible with the current use of the adjacent cemetery. You know, there are other places in the city that are close to cemeteries where there's a larger buffer zone. So a large number of citizens use the cemetery, so we have to do what we can to mitigate the impact of this decision on them. The cemetery has to continue to be used for ceremonies and to be a place of for families to go and reflect. But this project goes against that, in my view. We received no, except from the developer, we received no letters of support for this project. And a number of people spoke up. So there are no persuasive arguments for me to explain the added value of this project. So I don't know how this project meets an urgent need, especially given the high number of variances requested. This project is so there's been a lot of work done by staff, and I thank staff for the work that they've done. But in my view, the reverse can be true as well, and that the reasons to approve the project are not persuasive enough to convince me that it's in the interest of the cities or the city or residents. And so that is, it's for those reasons that I will accept the recommendation of the PAC committee, and I will be voting against the project.
Vas-y.
Ça va être moins long.
Oui.
Donc, je tiens à m'exprimer aussi.
So I'd also like to speak out to justify my vote. One of the elements that is motivating me is the need to take into consideration the conclusion of the members of the PAC to reject this. There are 2 members of the PAC that pointed out that the variances respecting the height and the orientation of the building is not reasonable. Another PAC member had concerns on the type of project because of the excessive height and the orientation of the building. The comment that struck me, and this was raised by one of my colleagues as well, that Mr. Le Breton mentioned that the municipal development plan, the current plan, is perhaps not well adapted for this specific site. The fact that the vote was 4 against 1 demonstrates that the sentiment around the feeling around the table was almost unanimous. Furthermore, with all of the comments from citizens, all in the same sense, cannot be ignored. I'm aware that the variances requested are put forth by a developer to accommodate the requests of the citizens in good faith, but the fact that there were so many conditions, so many modifications, so many variances being asked for is that, and a demonstration that this project is probably not the best for this sector, for this district, this neighborhood. There have been a number of questions on the institutional zone, and I think the city should address this and better define what an institutional zone means for the city. I will therefore vote to reject. Well, I will vote in favor of the recommendation of the PAC. So this evening, I am voting as a citizen of Dieppe, but also as a citizen representing you.
Merci. On va continuer.
Okay, let's continue on. Let's continue on. Then, with those who are remote, we'll start with Councillor Le Boutillier. Thank you. Can you hear me? I would also like to thank you for this opportunity. Following the analysis of all the information we received, well, I'd like to thank all of the staff for the report. Their analysis was very well detailed and very well presented to allow us to come to a decision on this matter. And because of the results, the recommendation of the PAC and the refusal of these variances, I'm also going to vote against the recommendation. All has been said by my colleague councillors already, but my decision is based on the same reasons as Councillor Turgeon, Roy, and Councillor Lantaigne. And as they have already said, the project itself is a good project, but probably not in the right spot because of all of these variances and with all of the criteria that would be necessary and the modifications. But I would like to repeat what all councillors have said and I'd like to give my unconditional support to our team of experts in the planning department who work relentlessly every day because of the speed with which Dieppe is growing, and we can't always go forward with all of these projects. And this property, as others have mentioned, is probably not the best suited to this project. Thank you.
Merci, Monsieur Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm sorry. I caught the flu and I have trouble speaking. I won't speak long, but after having analyzed all of the documents that were presented to us and having listened to all of the arguments by citizens and by my colleagues, and having looked closely at all of the reports that were presented, I must admit it was a wonderful project, and I was ready to vote in favor of it. And I think I will maintain my decision. Thank you, Your Worship. So is that a yes or a no? It's a yes. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to be sure. Thank you. Councillor Godet. Thank you, Your Worship. I'm not going to repeat everything that was said, but after having read all of the information thoroughly, based on Section 59 of the Community Planning Act, the developer had the right with conditions, this project could go forward. So I'm going to say yes, vote yes for these reasons. Thank you. Okay. Councillor Brideau. Sorry. Councillor Janin, then. I wanted to make my comments before the vote. In my thought process. I took into consideration what citizens asked us over the last few years. I also took into account the expertise of our planning staff and others. I see that the developer modified their initial plans to satisfy the concerns of the neighborhood. In other words, to keep the greatest number of trees possible, to create a buffer zone, to create affordable housing, to avoid creating shade on the neighboring houses, to use less than 20% of the surface area for the building and to make the building very energy efficient. Several of the variances were asked to take these requests into account. I also want to note that it's close to a major bus line on a collector road. This type of construction is in conformance with the vision the city has agreed to, and I see a great improvement compared to the initial plan proposed a year ago. And I'd like to make sure that this project has the proper conditions rather than to allow a developer build anything that would be in the list of permitted uses in the intentional zone. The project would not have been so well thought out if it hadn't gone before council and hadn't had this cooperation of the citizens. In spite of the recommendation of the PAC to not authorize the recommendation, I would follow the recommendation of the planners and other professionals that we have here at the city and vote in favor of the project. Thank you. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. It's a big decision this evening. I presented the recommendations of the PAC. I listened, as my colleagues did, during your presentations. I listened to your complaints and to the objections by residents. I came to Dieppe over 39 years ago, and $20,000, 20 some odd thousand. My colleague, Mr. Lantaine, said, well, there were 6,000 when I came. And now we're at 35,000 residents here in Dieppe, I think. And I've seen the growth in the city. Yes, there are new buildings, there are new houses, there is construction everywhere where we had these beautiful green spaces and trees. The city of Dieppe has changed. We are now an urban city. I looked at this project and I said, well, how can I prevent this? How can I prevent the progression of the city of Dieppe? So I'm going to disappoint you, but I'm against the recommendation of the PAC this evening. So I'm voting against the proposal. No, the staff recommendation is to reject the PAC recommendation. So I am against the recommendation, the PAC recommendation. I agree with the project, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you. So I've also looked very closely the history of Dieppe. Like my colleagues who have lived here for a long time, I think the only one, I think Councillor Brideau is the only one who's been here longer than I have, but it's been at least 14, if not 20 years that the city of Dieppe has been working in the same direction to welcome people, to welcome them well, to receive them well, all new citizens, and to continue to build a modern city. still far from being a modern city, but I think we have a responsibility towards all of our citizens, not only towards 50 or even 100. As was already mentioned, we're almost 35,000 people, and you have to take into consideration not only the citizens that are here present, but the ones who want to come here to live in Dieppe. So that being said, I think we're going to continue on our growth, and I think I support the resolution that was presented this evening. So that closes the debate. The only thing we have left then is the vote, the official vote. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Just to make sure we have it recorded, I'd like to record the names: Councillor Janin, Brideau, Godet, and Councillor Thibodeau in favor. And the against, the opposed. So against, Councillors Lantaigne, Godbout, Turgeon-Roy, and Councillor Le Boutillier. So it's 4-4. So the mayor breaks the tie and will vote in favor of the staff recommendation. Next item on the agenda. We're at first reading. 12.3.
OK. Alors, Monsieur le maire, concernant le prochain dossier au niveau des arrêtés municipaux, l'arrêté C1.
And now we're on municipal bylaws. C1, this is a bylaw relating to traffic and parking. There were two things that were going to be amended. Section 6, one of the two accessible parking spots are going to be relocated to better meet the needs. And it's on Rue Lorette, the bike trail is going to be continued on Lorette Street right up to Laker Street. So those are the two amendments that are being requested by the reading of this bylaw. So for the reading by title only, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. So it's a bylaw relating to traffic and parking in the city of Dieppe. And I so move first reading by title only. Thank you, Councillor. Moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by. Is everybody on strike here? Is seconded by Councillor Lantaigne on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary? Nay. So 12. Bylaw C-1 has been read a first time and is carried, and second reading now. The same players? Thank you. So it's a bylaw relating to traffic and parking in the city of Dieppe, and I so move it by second reading by title only. Thank you. Councillor Lantaigne, to second it. Are you seconding? It's been moved on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. Okay. And now it's bylaw A8. So this is just a change in the provider. Now it used to be London Life, and now it's going to be Canada Life. And it's just to reflect the reality. The contract's already been awarded. And okay, to read the resolution, Councillor Janin, thank you. It's a bylaw number A8, 2024, a bylaw of the municipality of Dieppe respecting the pension plan for the employees of the city of Dieppe. And I so move it. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Janin, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. Just a clarification. Yeah, the contribution to the pension plan as well. It was negotiated in the most recent collective agreement. So this is reflected here. It's increased in this new bylaw. Okay, thank you. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. It's carried as presented. Second reading, please. Second reading. Yes, that's right. I always forget the second reading. So let's read it for a second time, Councillor Janin. Thank you. And it's, let me read it. Yeah. Bylaw number A8, 2024, bylaw of the municipality of Dieppe respecting the pension plan for the employees of the city of Dieppe. And I so move. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, any questions? If not, all those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Otherwise, nay. And we'll now move on to bylaw Z10. And this is related to the project that we adopted earlier with the 13 elements that are integrated. So this is for first reading and second reading of the bylaw amendment. To read it, Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. By title only, by title only. Bylaw number Z-10, 2021-13, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw. And I so move. It's been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Janin on the question. All those in favor of the resolution will signify by saying aye. Contrary, nay. One nay. Two nay. Just for the recording, it's Councillors Janin, Brideau, Councillor Godet, and Councillor Thibodeau vote in favor, and Councillors Turgeon-Roy, Godbout, Le Boutillier, and Councillor Lantaigne vote against, and the mayor will break the tie. Is that correct? Yes. So yes, yes, I'm in favor. And for second reading, Councillor Brideau, Your Worship, bylaw number Z-10, 2021-13, bylaw to amend the City of Dieppe zoning bylaw, and I so move it in second reading. Thank you. Been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Janin. And our colleagues who are have joined us remotely. Councillor Le Boutillier, Thibodeau, Boutillier, and Councillors Godet are all remote. And they, no, I voted against, Your Worship. That's right. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm going to say, let's just repeat the procedure as we did earlier. Councillors Brideau, Janin, Godet, and Thibodeau voted against, and Councillors Lantaigne, Godbout, Turgeon-Roy, and Le Boutillier voted against. And the mayor breaks the tie once again in favor of the recommendation. So all we have left are inquiries. Does anybody have any specific information that you would like to share? I know some of you are going to want to go to bed soon, but other than that, nothing to add. Anybody? Councillor Godbout? Yeah. Just 2 points to raise. One, a question, a second one is a point of information. I just wanted to follow up on the active transportation plan. during the summer, I mean, I had experiences, I saw things elsewhere. I thought about what we have here and the effort that we've put into the bike trails and other things. I think in our next budget process with our active transportation plan, how do we maintain these kind of assets? I see a lot of bike accidents, and it leads me to believe that the maintenance of the roads and the bike trails is very important. How do we maintain our bike trails? Do we think that we should do more or less because of the growth of the city? And led me to think, okay, sometimes I'm on the trail and I see things and people have had accidents with gravel. And so how do we maintain those? And what impact might that have on our budget? Because when we add new developments, how do we manage all that?
Monsieur Richard, Luc.
Mr. Richard, look. So if I understood your question, how do we do the maintenance and what do we see in the future in terms of maintenance? Are we going to be able to maintain the same level of maintenance? How are we going to maintain that in the future? Well, we conduct an annual analysis. So the director of active transportation has a lot of recommendations, a lot of priorities. So city staff and specifically the urban mobility rather look at the situation and then make recommendations for a budget. So for new trails and new segments of trails and so forth. So we look at all those aspects. So in terms of infrastructure and planning. Now, and if I understood your question in terms of on the operational side, this is part of daily operations. So the number of users, and there are more, and the more trails and the more street we have, the more maintenance there is. And then we have to look at how much staff we need from the operational side. But I don't know okay, well, I'm a little bit, I have a clearer idea. So there's street cleaning, we're going to be able to maintain the same areas. And if citizens have complaints, if this is not done, where can they direct their complaints to? Well, they can just call the city and we'll direct them to the right person. My second point is that in the last month, I had an opportunity to see the construction of the new police station in the city. And I can assure you that the work is quite advanced. They're well ahead. I don't want to reveal any secrets, but the process is going very well. And I mean, it's the city of Moncton that has the responsibility for this building, but things are progressing nicely. And this will be an important tool, and it's reassuring to see, what we'll have available to us. So I just wanted to give you an update on that. So thank you. I'm going to go online to see if anybody has anything to add at the end of the day. Councillor Le Boutier. Thank you, Your Worship. I have a couple points, and this. So residents talked to me about Gauvin Street. No, sorry, not Gauvin. The light on Pascal. So when you turn left, following the construction of Gauvin, La France, citizens don't seem to see a difference. There's so much more traffic now on Pascal. It's very difficult in the morning. But could we look at making the light longer at that point? All right, I've noted that. And I mean, it's understandable. It's, this school is starting back up, university starting back up. So, okay, then, so there was that comment. And then there was another resident that talked to me about another situation. And I wonder if you could check on Chartersville and Amiot, the light that's there. The light, so if there's somebody's coming on Charterville and they want to go to Dover, the light doesn't seem to detect that vehicle. So, you know, because of Gauvin, the distance to you know, if you can almost get to Centrale Street. So what I want to check is, are the lights after a certain delay, can they turn so that they give access to vehicles on Chartersville, even there's so much traffic in the morning, so it's very difficult to get on the road. So if you could check that, that'd be good. And check that light, it's to see if that light could let people turn from Chartersville. Well, the traffic that has been created by the closure of Gauvin, I mean, that situation will last for about a month and a half, but we'll look to see if we can mitigate certain things. But yeah, but turning right on Chartersville, yes, the lights aren't activated. Yeah, you've noticed that. Yes. And that brings me, and you just said this, but I would like to have a report or where things are at on Gauvin, or where are things at. Well, we had the presentation of projects, and we said that all the projects would be completed by the end of the construction period. So we're looking at November 30th, and I hope it'll be done a little faster. But on Gauvin, I know that there was an additional delay that was created. There were soil conditions that are behind that delay. So there's more time needed. But, you know, we have until the end of November, just so that expectations are realistic. After that, traffic will be, you know, opened up in those areas. So, and I'm looking at Jill to see if and he's giving me a thumbs up. So my last point is about homelessness. So more and more, you know, we're seeing more and more homelessness in our municipality, you know, especially coming from Moncton. They have teams. So, and there's people are being sent towards us. So is there a strategy or an action plan to look at this, this issue, the situation? Well, you know, we're working with the two neighboring communities, especially the city of Moncton, on their initiatives, and with the entities that are responsible from the province as well. So unfortunately, those groups of people exist, and we do have a team, and we will be meeting with another group to better understand the issue. And so following your question, I think it would be worth having a presentation to City Council. You know, summer is over, winter is coming, and there will be other initiatives undertaken by social services and the other groups that help these groups that help the homeless in the wintertime. So we'll present, I'll arrange for a presentation to be made to you on the strategy. All right, thank you very much. That's all for me. Councillor Godette. Thank you, Your Worship. I just want to add on the comment on trails. I got some calls, or a few calls, about trails and blind, or but the comments that I brought up were settled very quickly. And I'm out on the trails quite often these days, but you know, I've been throughout the Atlantic region, and there's a lot of good trails out there. But I just want to congratulate the staff that repairs and that looks after our trails. They do a good job. That's all for me. Thank you, Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing tonight. I have to leave you. I have to go take care of my voice.
Long and straight, okay? Au revoir. Monsieur Lantaigne, je pense que c'est...
Councillor Lantaigne, and then Councillor Jeannet. Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Very quickly, 2 points. A citizen told me that they witnessed an accident, or what it was almost an accident on Pascal Street, and we know that that's a very busy area. And there's no pedestrian crosswalk at that location. So this person told me that there was a family, I think a mother and father and 2 children who were almost hit. They were trying to cross Champlain to go to the bus stop. So I wanted to know if we are aware of that at the administration, and if steps will be taken soon to deal with it. Sorry, Ms. Spencer, go ahead. Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Lantaigne, we are aware that we're looking at the situation, and at budget time we'll be presenting some solutions. So congratulations to Frenette, who was our athlete Frenette, who was very successful at the Paris Paralympics. She may not have achieved the goals that she wanted to achieve, but she's a very accomplished athlete, and she's a model for our entire community. So I just wanted to take a minute to congratulate Camille Frenette. Thank you. Councillor Jeannet. Thank you, Your Worship. I have nothing to add tonight. Have a nice evening. Oh, Councillor Turgeon-Roy, I missed you. Sorry. That's okay. It made me think that I wanted to congratulate Danielle Doris, who is training with CNBO as well here in Dieppe. She's a Dieppe girl, and she won a gold medal. So, and this is her second. It's actually her second gold medal. Yes. I've been getting comments. We're talking about cycling paths. We have more and more electric bikes traveling on those trails, and the speed is starting to become an issue. You know, I'm just asking the question, but maybe just if we can think about that in other communities, you know, what are the best practices that are being established for the sharing of trails? You know, some people have been telling me that they're avoiding certain places in the city because it's you know, it's become like a Trans-Canada highway. Well, I can tell you, you know, that when bikes started to go down the same trails as pedestrians, that was an adaptation, and now we have the same situation. Wheelchairs as well that travel at a certain speed. So this is something that we need to talk about. We need to think about. We'll need to look at what's being done elsewhere. It's a new reality, if you will. All right, thank you. I have nothing to add. I wish you all a good evening. Thank you for your active participation.